Leaving the plantation, I seen these cute little duckies, and immediately the thought came across my mind, like they must have just put them there, because if they were there back then, they would have had one hell of a Chinese roast duck recipe. I digress. Maybe that's where the recipe came from, but let's get to the video. Good morning, everybody. It's your girl Fire here in the neighborhood, and in today's video we are going to be going to the Hawai'i Plantation Village out there in Oahu. Now, I've been here before in grade school, but you know, you're young, you're really not paying attention, and it's just like a field trip, a day out of school, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to revisit and see if we can capture new information. I know that I gave a little backstory on this plantation in my very first Hawaii video, where I talk about the dialect and how Hawaiian slang, Hawaii slang became what it is. And it is because of, you know, plantations like this. This is, I don't know if it's the only plantation, but this is the only one that I know of, and I may be on a hunt to find different ones on the island if I can, if they even open and available. It is still COVID, so I'm gonna have a mask on, and I hope you guys can hear me through the mask. If not, then I'll just do a voiceover. So the backstory was that there was these immigrants from all different countries, i.e. Japan, Korea, China, Puerto Rico, Portugal, Okinawa, you know what I mean? Like different countries, and they all came to Hawaii to work on the sugarcane plantations. Now, I'm pretty sure none of them spoke a lick of English, so they had to communicate through broken English, like certain words, and then they will add their little language to it, and then it kind of just became what it is now, right? This is in relevance to that because this is the plantations, one of the plantations that they were working on. So if you guys are interested, let's get started. Let's start the day. All right, you guys, so I'm filming on another phone. I'm filming on another phone, and there was no tour guides that was available, so I'm gonna be doing it myself, okay? And this is like a self-tour. I'm just gonna follow this path, and then it's gonna take me to the other side of the plantation village. I have this book here that's gonna read off information for us. Okay, so let's start this tour. This right here is what a lot of mainland people think that Hawaii people live in. Grass huts, okay? No, we live in regular houses, but this is one of them. See how beautiful? See how you can make something out of nothing, you know? So the mask wasn't cutting it. You guys wouldn't have been able to hear me. So I'm just going to do a voiceover and narrate what you guys are seeing on the wall, giving you a synopsis of how I feel about the plantation visit as a whole, because I have a few notes. But we're going to start off with the entrance. This is the way into the plantation, and those rocks that you just seen were offerings from Japan, I believe, to the plantation. And this beautiful rock right here was carved in the 1930s by a skillful immigrant calligrapher named Tarachi Okita, and this rock is dedicated to the immigrant workers of Oahu Sugar Company who had no families to tend to the graves. Now, the graves are located by Waipahu Elementary, and that's why at night nobody goes there. Moving along, what we are looking at now is called the Chinese Society Building, aka, you know, Chinese people used to live there. This is a reconstructed building. It's not in its original structure, and that is the case for a lot of these houses on the plantation ground. When I looked in the booklet, there really wasn't too much information about these houses, but they made sure that they credited whoever helped fund and reconstruct these buildings and these houses and stuff like that. So I was kind of like upset and underwhelmed about that. When I walked into this house, I really wanted to feel the essence of what happened there. I really wanted to be encapsulated in time, but I just felt like I was at my grandma's house, or at the science fair, because it just had pictures with information at the bottom. And mind you, it's 80 degrees outside, And nobody got time to be standing here reading all of that. There was just too much information for me to read and sit there and read. Nonetheless, like, when I was eavesdropping on the group next to me, the tour guide really wasn't too enthusiastic about the information he was sharing with the group. So I was just like, let me just do my own research. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys today in this voiceover. I'm so sorry, but it just has to happen this way. I really want to share what happened there. So first, let's talk about the barbershop. The barbershop was used as a social gathering place to build a sense of community amongst all of the workers. Majority of the time, there was only male workers that got services there, and plantation overseers, which they called lunas. You can get your hair cut for as low as 15 cents and for your children as low as 5 cents. Now, women didn't practically get their hair cut because they felt it was a representation of prosperity, so they left their hair long for when they went into, their marriages and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. In the next clips, you'll see the dwellings of different ethnic groups. They will be displayed on the screen for you. Taking it back to the early 1800s, these houses were actually not even there. The early immigrants, such as the Chinese, slept in grass houses and wooden buildings with dirt floors, housing close to 40 men in one room, packed like a can of sardines, like they did the Africans in transatlantic, okay? But immigrants were bound to 3 to 5 year labor contracts. Some came to the island to make money to send back to their families. And although there were different ethnicities present in the same purpose, they all weren't paid the same. So, I don't know how much money you really sending back to your family, but I digress. The wage for a 10 to 15 hour day was $5 to $18 a month. Yeah, okay. Not only were these immigrants getting paid pennies on the dollar, but the plantation didn't even have the decency to name them or call them by their first name. They had to wear tags, which looked like dog tags, but they're metal discs that they called bangos, and they were issued in different shapes and colors according to ethnic groups, and they used numbers instead of names to address the workers. The reasoning behind this system is because their names were foreign and hard to spell and pronounce. These dog tags were used for the purpose of identification. However, that is what you needed to present for your payment and to buy stuff. So if you lost it, it's kind of like your SOL, or you're basically a deserter and you're just sneaking in the plantation to get away from having jail time or whatever. So that's kind of like, sad. The plantations hired Portuguese or European overseers that they called lunas, who whipped and harshly fined immigrants, especially the Chinese. For some reason, I just kept reading like the Chinese got like the worst treatment there at the plantations. So they was whipping the workers. That's crazy. Anyways, so for offenses such as talking, smoking, or stretching in the field, just to take a little break, just take a little breather, you know what I mean? They got whipped for that, or they got harshly fined. And mind you, they wasn't even getting paid that much. So you do the math. Workers shopped at plantation stores for their needs and showered in community bathing facilities, which were meager and very unsanitary. In a way, these immigrants were treated just as African Americans in the South. Only difference is the immigrants got paid and they didn't get whooped on a regular, and they definitely was considered more than 3/5 of a person. If that wasn't bad enough, let's take a look at the effects that this had on the Hawaiians. After all, this is a Hawai'i plantation, and demographically, they would be the ones first to hire on these plantations. However, there wasn't enough Hawaiian population due to the foreign diseases bought by Europeans. So they had to import workers from different countries, hence why there is a major contribution to why the native Hawaiian population has declined very drastically to this day. Although Hawaiians were considered first for hire, a lot of my people was not going for it, okay? They were not filling out applications. They were not first in line to fill out no damn application to be working those types of hours under those types of conditions, because Hawaii wasn't even annexed at the time. And so they felt like the land belonged to them and they were self-sustaining, living off of the land. And the only way that they was going to break their back is if they're bringing that food, that crop, home to their families and not to no damn European, okay? But since the politicians came, the Europeans came, putting a tax on everything and kind of just switching around Hawaii's government in total, like they made it hard to live off of their own land. So they had to work. They were forced to work. And Native Hawaiians wasn't accustomed to working for anybody but the chiefs and the hierarchy and important people. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was just so foreign to them. And I feel bad because they felt it was like slave labor. So moving along, we are going to shine light on this specific ethnic group that I feel played a major contribution to change in the plantation life, okay? Change for the better. Shout out to the Japanese. Japanese culture, customs, and traditions are still influenced and heavily marked in Hawaii culture to this day. But these Japanese immigrants came in by the numbers in the 1900s. This is one of the structures that they have built. This is called a Japanese duplex. I honestly feel like this structure is just so cool. And like there's 2 entrances and it's a 4-quadrant layout. And then in the back, there's like a kitchen. It's just so cool. If I ever like built a house, it would probably look like this. Like I said, the Japanese came in numbers, making them the second largest ethnic group next to the Chinese. Side note, I believe life on the plantation could have been better a long time ago had the Chinese been louder in their efforts for change. Not saying that they didn't try, but they could have tried a little harder to make some shit shake. You know what I mean? But I see why they didn't. As I read through like the research, come to find out the Chinese were almost treated like black people in the South. You know, they were heavily discriminated against, paid the least, and belittled. There's this psychological tactic called manipulation. When you treat the majority like they're less than, psychologically, they're going to think they're less than when really the strength is in numbers. So there's a lot of Chinese and only a few plantation owners when really they could have easily overpowered the plantation owners, the overseers, and all of that. You know, they could have made the system shake, but they didn't, because psychologically and mentally they was not prepared. They didn't think they could do it. But when the Japanese came in, the Japanese was like, we're not having it. So the Japanese felt that plantation life was just very unfair as far as like the wages and the living conditions. So they made some shit shake. And when they did that, it inspired the other ethnic groups. So everybody came together, okay? Everybody came together in harmony, in union, to form the Hawaii Association Laborers Union, where their mission was to basically just get fair pay, fair housing, better food, you know, etc., just to make things better for the workers. In closing, it's plantations like these and the ones all throughout the Hawaiian island chain that contributed to what Hawaii is today, not just economically, but culturally as well. Now, we could say that the Europeans came in and mushed up the island. They stole, they robbed, they manipulated, they finagled their way in. They did a whole bunch of negative things to Hawaii, but had it not been for the Europeans, would Hawaii be advanced as it is today? That's the question that I want to leave for you guys, and you let me know what you think down in the comments. Also, if you want to add anything to this vlog history-wise, then go ahead and add it in the comments and we all can just talk about it and learn from each other. Would we be underdeveloped like the Ihau? or would we be like we are today? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this vlog, and I'll see you guys in the next video.